Hey, it's Don, the Auction Professor here. I thought I'd talk about eBay on a budget today. How to start with very little money. For most people, you're starting off on a very fixed budget. Most people are even working for someone else while they're doing this. So this is just a sideline using whatever extra money you can get. In the beginning, what you're going to need to do is figure out what type of budget you actually have to spend. Figure out how much money you actually have, and that's going to be your beginning budget. Let's say you have $500 a week extra or $500 a month extra. That's your beginning budget. You need to include every aspect of what you're going to spend in that budget so you make sure you don't actually go over it. You need to stick to that budget. If that's all you have, don't be going over and taking money from a different category. Let's say you only have $500 to spend. You're going to take some of your food money for 1 week to list something. I wouldn't recommend doing that. Don't affect anything else in your personal life until you've got a good grasp and understanding on the fees and how much you're going to have to spend. If you end up with extra money, you can always increase your budget. That is one thing. A budget is changeable. You can change it any day you want. But the biggest part is you have to be on a budget and stick to that budget. You'd want to follow and run this budget for several months to make sure it works for you. Again, this is something you're doing in your spare time for the most part for most people. You're not just going to stop a normal job and work eBay full-time just overnight. It just doesn't happen that way. So have a budget. Figure out the money that you can spend. That's your starting budget. Keep to that budget. If you come out in a month or two later that you keep having extra money, raise your budget. Throw some more money in. Invest your profits as well into that. The very first thing you need to do is check your startup costs. What's everything going to cost? I've got $500. How much of that is going to be in startup costs? The first part, obviously, is checking into license fees and permits. What do you need in your local city to be able to legally run a business? Do you have to register with the state? Where do you have to go? What do you have to do? What do you have to file? Is it a county license, a state license, a city license? What do you need to do? You're going to have to research that in your own state. Every state is different. Here in Ohio, where I'm from, I actually have a DBA for the state. I have a couple other businesses that are registered with the state, and then we have a county resale license. And obviously I have an EIN and a tax number as well, of course. Those are all things that you have to purchase. Everything costs money. That's part of your budget. How are you going to run your business? Is it just going to be a regular one-person business? Do you want an LLC? Most people, when you're first starting off, you're just going to want the very basic, whatever you have to have. Don't go spending money to become an LLC. I think it cost us like $1,500 for everything. We're actually going to an S Corp, I think, after this year. We'll hit a certain plateau where it's going to be cheaper for us to do that. But again, you're starting off with the basics, 30, 40 bucks, whatever it costs. That's your first column of expenses you're going to have. You're going to need to buy storage supplies. Where are you going to hold all this? Do you have a area, maybe a closet? If that's the case, you can cut the cost and not have anything. Do you need totes? Do you need tubs? Do you need bins to put the items in? Those are all things you're going to have to calculate. Walmart, chances are, is going to be the best place to buy the bins at. They've got 10 packs and 5-pack counts of like big hampers you can use for clothing with lids, the whole works. Cost of items as well. How much is it going to cost you to get those items to sell? That's part of your actual budget costs. Personal expenses. Are you going to need to buy anything else for it? Do you need special clothing? Do you need gloves? Do you need whatever the case may be? Personal items can be anything. It can be a personal pad of paper that you use to write down stuff. It could be anything like that. But these are expenses that you could incur and categorize them. So you've got license fees as one category, storage supplies is another category, cost of items or your item cost is another category, your personal expense is another category. Shipping supplies. Do you need boxes? Do you need poly bags? Do you need plastic bags or wrap to seal items in? Those are all items that you can source. You can source them by quantity or whatever the case may be. You're probably not going to be starting with an eBay store to start with, so your cost on shipping supplies are probably going to be stuff that's sourced locally from like a box supply company or probably Walmart. That's probably the cheapest options you're going to have. Poly bags you'd probably have to order offline to get cheap ones. So keep that in mind. Keep quantity in mind. If you're in this and you're going to do it no matter what, try and buy a larger quantity of supplies so you can lower the cost per item down. Like if you order 100 boxes, it's cheaper than ordering, say, 25 boxes. So keep that in mind. Office supplies are another area. Do you have a printer? Do you need ink toner for your printer? Where are you going to get this at when you run out? Do you have it now in stock? Do you need scissors? Do you need a stapler? What do you need for your office supplies? Make yourself a little list. Again, these are all categories you can use to track down your costs and what you're going to do. For us, we did all these on a spreadsheet on Excel, each one with its own little tab, and then I literally figured out the cost, and we did a budget from there. We stuck to the budget, and then we rolled from there. When things change, we alter the budget. Every year, we go back and revisit the budget. You've got ongoing costs besides your startup costs. Obviously, shipping supplies are a constant factor. You need to weigh that in. Do you buy enough all at once? Do you set money aside to actually buy boxes for the future? How are you handling that? These are all things you have to keep into your budget. Every month, do your budget. Every month, check your budget. Every month, make sure that you're sticking to it and you have enough funds from that budget to cover your costs. Storage supplies, again. Once you start buying more items, you're going to need more storage supplies. Keep that in mind. So let's say you're running a $500 a month budget. That's all you have to spend. That includes your fees and everything. You can adjust that depending on if you sell some high dollar items, and you can reinvest that money into your budget again. Increase your budget. You're selling $200 of items a month. You've got a $100 profit off of that. Your budget could go up to $600 instead of $500. You just throw that money back in there till you get to where you want to be. Obviously, eBay fees, you have to weigh that into them. And then you've got your PayPal fees as well. Those are all parts of your ongoing budget, your costs. Obviously, the fees on eBay are going to be there regardless if you sell something because of the listing fees. PayPal fees may not come into play until you sell something, of course. So those are things to keep in mind. Again, cost of items. You're constantly going to have to buy new items. Maybe of your $500 budget, you're able to put aside $300 just to buy everything each month. So you've got a $300 expense account for merchandise, for your items to sell. So that's what you can spend on your items. And again, you can throw more money into there if you sell something during the month. But again, keep that in the budget. Keep that in your paperwork. The biggest thing you can do wrong is not track what you've got going on. All your money coming in, all your money going out. Keep yourself a running total sheet of all your expenses, a P&L, a profit and loss statement. I'll show you how to do one of those in the near future, very near future. Actually working on one now. I'm going to show you some Excel sheets, how to set up basic Excel sheets so you can actually do a lot of this for yourself. Personal expenses, again, can be an ongoing thing. For me, notebooks, clothing, if I wear boots just for, doing hauls and things like that, those are all personal expenses. Those are all tax write-offs as long as you only use them for business. Again, personal business expenses. These are things you personally need for yourself to run the business. Whether you're going to meet people, you may need to buy a tie, a dress shirt. Dress shoes for wholesale meetings, which I do as well too. I wear a tie, I have a sports jacket, the whole works, just for this, just to do my business. Again, shipping costs themselves. Once you start shipping, you're going to need to be aware. Are you charging shipping? Are you including shipping for free in your listings? I personally would never include shipping into any of my costs unless it's something that only going to sell that way. Most items will sell without including shipping, so do not include shipping if you don't have to. And 99.9% of every listing I list is not included. Shipping is not included. It's not an option. They pay for shipping no matter what. Office supplies will always be ongoing. Printer cartridges, staple. Tape could go either way. You could have tape that's just for shipping or tape for your office supplies. Again, these categories I'm giving you here, shipping supplies, storage, eBay, PayPal fees, cost of items, personal expenses, shipping costs, office supplies. These are all categories. You can move around and put whatever items you want in a specific category. But once you do that, you have to always keep it in that category so you can track them correctly. Everything is a numbers game. Everything on eBay, getting an amount of items up to have the right numbers to sell, have a good sell-through rate that actually keeps you in the dollar range you want to make for each month. For us right now, we're running just over $20,000 a month between our two main anchor stores. I have a third store that's not an anchor store. We're not to that point yet. We are actually really getting to that point, though. And this is only on eBay. We do just over $20K on eBay. And then we have Amazon and Discogs and Etsy and Poshmark and a couple other places we do as well. And we do sell some artwork on some sites, too. So that's not figured into the 20K. Again, that's my sales. That's not necessarily what I'm taking home, but we have a very, very good cost of goods. So our costs and everything are very low. Lowest we could get them on any aspect. We've actually looked at every one of these categories and attacked each one of these categories to find the lowest means possible for everything. And that goes into why I have two anchor stores. It's cheaper to run two anchor stores than it is to list an extra 10,000 items in the same store. I do have almost 20, well, I think we actually have over 20 now in the one store. But with that, we try and tie the same kind of items together. It's impossible to run 3 different stores and tie them together where you can get multiple sales from the same person across stores. So for us, we had to go and list more items in one store. So I've got like 20 some odd in one store, 20 some odd thousand. Deciding on what to sell is another aspect of it. Do you have money to do high-end items? Chances are you don't. You're starting off. You're going to be wanting to sell unwind items around the house and then move up from there. Use those items to springboard you in. That'll give you the experience you know or you need to know know how eBay works, to know all the fees, to know what you can do and what you can't do, to know how to do it. Start with small and cheap items until you fully understand the fees and costs involved in eBay. Spend your time reading eBay's rules and regulations. Read their guide. Read all the papers and pages and site information you can find. That's going to help you out immensely. I constantly see people who are buying from me, who are asking for advice, who haven't the slightest idea on the policies and what you can and can't do on eBay. That's your biggest mistake you could do, is not reading information, not knowing what can't be sold, not knowing what a Vero is, or any of these other aspects. You could get shut down so quick by not following the rules. Again, join eBay groups online for free and useful knowledge. Like mine or any of the other ones out there, Craigslist Hunter, any of the other ones you may follow, they're going to give you information that you can't just get anywhere. Obviously, it's available, but you're not going to know where to look. You're not going to know what to do. You're not going to know all the ins and outs about this until you've done it for a while. So use the free information. Research is another thing. Research items to sell. Pick just some random category and do completed auctions and then search by highest item first. That's going to be your best bet. Research is the best, most important thing you can do. Research is number one. You have to do research. You're going to be nowhere without research. Knowing the numbers. Again, this goes back to knowing your numbers. You have to keep records of everything. Know your expenses. This is your budget. You have to know. Keep track of every single thing that's related to your business. Keep track of all your sales. Keep track of all of your expenses. Excel works great for this. It's basically free. You can find Excel pretty much anywhere. Everybody uses Excel in the real business world for something. Get yourself a version of it. Borrow it from a friend. Whatever you got to do, use Excel or something similar. Don't spend the money on these monthly services that can do your inventory. Everything can be done in Excel. Everything that we do is on Excel. I don't use any of the QuickBooks or any of that stuff. We did in a place I used to work, but I would never use it for this. For what we do, Excel works awesome. You just have to know it a little bit. And I'm going to show you that, as I said. You need to keep track of all your fees. eBay, PayPal, taxes. This is just something you have to do. Keep a separate file for each one. If you're not up on this, write it down on a piece of paper. Keep a little notebook. Keep a journal log or a accountant log book. Something that you can write this down if that's the case. Whatever it may be, whether it's Excel, whether it's something. If you have to use QuickBooks or something and need to pay for it, be my guest. But keep your costs down. That's your key. And again, know your numbers. You have to know the numbers. You're going to be nowhere if you don't know your numbers. And don't just take everybody else's example, do it this way, do it that way. You need to know yourself Don't be lost when somebody asks you your numbers. You have to know them. Numbers are key to making this work. Knowing where you're at any day of the week, whether you're up, you're down, what are your projections stating you're going to do for the month, and are you meeting those projections? Those are all important factors. Another issue that a lot of people forget is, what's your future expenses? You're selling now. You need to set aside. You're selling now. What are your future expenses? You've got income tax. How are you going to file? Are you going to do it quarterly? Are you going to do it yearly? We do ours at the end of the year. We know we can get away with that because we usually have a big slush fund as well. And the last quarter of the year, we always sell a ton, more so than the rest of the year. So we always have enough money to cover whatever we end up having to pay. We pay every year now. Every single year we end up paying thousands of dollars. But again, we're making a ton of money now. So that's what you need to get to a point. But you need to have the money there to pay your bills. Don't get yourself shut down because you can't pay your taxes at the end of the year and have to file an extension. That's going to kill you right off the bat. And sales tax, that's another thing. You have to have a tax ID number. If you're selling an estate, even if you're selling one item or so, and it's not a hobby, if you've done this as a business and you're making it as a profit, you have to file everything. Sales tax is important too. We file sales tax every 6 months. We can do it quarterly too, but it's just easier this way. We do it when we do our halfway point labor reports. So it's done at the same time. It's easy for us. It's something easy to remember other than every 3 months. So every 6 months, we got 30 days to file. That gives us enough time to get our end of month or the end of the 6 month sales figures together. eBay usually takes a week or two to have the finals posted, so that's what we go by. Other fees too. So again, in your budget, like in December, wherever you want to put it in there, or you spread it out. Let's say it costs you $100 in license fees every year. Spread it out, divide it by 12, and then deduct whatever that 12th is from each month of your budget. That's how you're going to do it. That's how you're not going to get yourself in trouble. Sales tax too. When you sell something, figure out the sales tax. You should be collecting it automatically through eBay. Set it up in eBay and collect that sales tax. However you do it, make sure you're collecting it. Again, office supplies, future expenses. For example, maybe you need to buy a new printer and you need to put that in your budget for next year. Again, you can figure out a printer. You buy a cheap one, $150. Divide that by 12, and then spread out those 12 payments across your budget and start that way. That's the way you can cover it and fill it in your budget. Or let's say you just sold something and it's enough to buy the printer. Don't do anything else with that money. Reinvest that money into a printer. That's where you're going to go. That's where you're going to have more return on your investment. If you can't print properly and you can't get your invoices out, or your slips to print, or your labels, whatever you happen to be using, you need to have good office supplies, new tape dispensers, whatever the case may be. And you might have some admin costs too. Admin costs for us would be like our I have an accountant that just literally does our payroll. I have another accountant that does our taxes. Why? Because one's cheaper than the other one, and we've had one for longer than the other one. Just the way it is. One isn't great on, or doesn't do as much on payroll, so it would cost us more. So again, we have two accountants for that. You might have a lawyer. We have a lawyer because we have some trademarks that we had to have done. We actually have a lawyer too for some other issues related to some new products we have coming out. We are creating some of our own products, and that is our end goal, is to have products that we can mass produce and sell as our own brand on Amazon. And again, I'm not private branding. We're literally straight from scratch, making our own brand up. I've got one that we've already have a trademark on. That's another thing we've had to get a lawyer for. So you got copyrights and trademarks. It depends on what stage you are in your business, of course, but the end result for anybody is to make more money and to advance your business. So we've spent 4.5 years to get to this point, and now we're advancing and we're branching off. The end result would be to have somebody to make your product and just be able to list a couple items and then list tens of thousands of those items and one listing. That would be your best bet, obviously. An Amazon page with your own brand. That's expensive. You have to do a lot of stuff to get your own brand registered with Amazon, but then you have copyright protection from Amazon, and no one can infringe, and the list of things you're able to do that way is great. That's what we're working on now. Again, it does cost a lot of money, so we are waiting through this year. For Christmas, we will have it set and ready to go because we do want our new product out by then. So But this is just the basics on your budget, on what you want to do to start off, and again, keep track of everything. Write everything down. From starting off, you need to know how much you have to spend. You need to know what everything costs, and you need to be able to keep track of this one way or another, whether it's on a piece of paper, whether it's on a program, or whether you're using Excel. They're all options to use, but you have to use one of them from the start. Don't get into it and not do this to start off with. You're going to have yourself in a mess at the end of the year if you don't keep track of this. If you're not setting money aside for your income taxes or your sales taxes or next year's license fees, you could have an expired license and not realize it, or not have the money to do something. You have to set this money aside. Budget yourself. When you sell something, add that to your budget, the profit-wise of that. And then again, change it, or add all the items you sell at the end of the month and do a new budget once a month, if that's what it is. Whatever's easiest for you, but you have to do it. You have to have a budget. You have to have an expense account. You have to know how much everything costs. This is what you need to do to be successful in any business. You have to know the numbers. If anybody watches Shark Tank or Dragon's Den, which is where Shark Tank came from, the first thing they're asking you is your numbers. You have to know the numbers. Numbers are key to anything you do in the business world, the real business world. And eBay is a business. Treat it that way. Don't treat it as a sideline or as just some little game where you're making some pocket change. If you want to be serious and quit your full-time job and turn eBay into your full-time job, where you're not working for anybody and not giving anybody else the majority of the money you make, you need to be serious and start with a budget. Start with your numbers. Know everything. Know the numbers. Know what it costs. Know what boxes cost. Know what your supplies cost. Know your listing fees. Know your store costs. Whatever the case may be, know your numbers. But again, this is just a rough summary on what you need to know, where you should start from, and what the financial aspect is of starting a business. So again, this is Don the Auction Professor. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you learned something at least. Please hit the like button if you liked it. Watch, subscribe, and tell a friend.